My name is Lila Bennett, and I was 29 years old when my family applauded a will that gave everyone a fortune. Everyone except me. At least that was what they thought. The attorney's office was on the 4th floor of a brick building in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, with rain scratching at the windows, and my entire family dressed in black clothing expensive enough to look like grief had a dress code. My Uncle Grant received the lake cottage in the Poconos and $800,000. My mother received my grandfather's townhouse in Philadelphia and $500,000. My older sister Claire received his investment account to support her entrepreneurial future. My cousin Mason received a paid position on the family company's advisory board, even though he had never advised anything except where to order bottle service. Even relatives who had not visited my grandfather in years received checks large enough to make them sit up straighter. Then the attorney looked at me. To Lila, Rose Bennett, he read, "I leave the brass locker key taped inside the back cover of my old work ledger and the instruction written on the first page." He slid a cracked black notebook across the table. That was it. A ledger, not a house. Not money. Not company shares. A dusty notebook with frayed corners and a rubber band holding it closed. My sister Claire laughed first. She did not even try to hide it. My mother pressed her fingers to her lips not to stop herself from crying, but to stop herself from smiling. Uncle Grant lifted his coffee cup toward me like he was making a toast. "Well," he said, "maybe Grandpa wanted you to finally learn bookkeeping." The room laughed. Comfortably. Cruelly. The way people laugh when the family joke has been rehearsed for years and everyone already knows the punchline. I was the punchline. Lila, the college dropout. Lila, the girl who managed a second-hand furniture warehouse. Lila, the one with sawdust on her jeans and no husband, no degree, no impressive apartment, no framed certificates. No reason for anyone at that table to believe my grandfather had trusted me with anything more valuable than an old notebook. The attorney did not laugh. His name was Samuel Pike. He was in his 70s with silver eyebrows, a navy suit, and hands folded so neatly on the table that he looked less like a lawyer and more like a man guarding a secret. He watched me the way my grandfather used to watch a board before cutting into it, carefully, waiting to see if it would split. I opened the ledger. The pages smelled like pencil dust machine oil and the old shop behind my grandfather's house. Inside the back cover, exactly where the will said, was a brass key taped flat under yellowing cellophane. On the first page in my grandfather's block handwriting were 6 words. "When they laugh, go alone." That was all. Claire leaned sideways to read it upside down. She snorted. "That is so dramatic." My mother sighed. "Lila, please do not turn this into something emotional." Emotional. That was the word they used whenever I reacted to being humiliated. Uncle Grant leaned forward. "If that key has anything to do with Bennett Millworks, you need to hand it over. Company assets stay with qualified people." Qualified people. He meant himself. He always did. I closed the ledger slowly. For the first time that afternoon, I looked around the table. At the people already spending money they had not earned. At the people who had left my grandfather alone with his medications, his tremors, his failing eyesight, and his quiet disappointment. At my mother who had called me unfinished so many times I had almost believed it. At Claire, who had not changed a single adult diaper, not sorted a single pill, not sat through one appointment, but somehow believed her business degree made her more deserving of the man who had built everything. I picked up the ledger, held it against my chest, and stood. My uncle said, "Where are you going?" I looked at the first page again. "When they laugh, go alone." Then I said, to follow instructions, "Before I tell you what that brass key opened, I need you to know who my grandfather was. Arthur Bennett was not a soft man. He was good. That is different. Soft men say yes to keep the peace. Good men say no when peace is being used as a cover for rot. He founded Bennett Millworks in 1984, starting with 2 table saws, 1 rented shed, and a contract to build cabinets for a church basement renovation. By the time he died at 84, Bennett Millworks had become one of the most respected custom cabinetry and architectural woodworking companies in Pennsylvania. They built courthouse benches, library shelves, hotel lobbies, restaurant interiors, and the kind of kitchen cabinets rich people describe as timeless when they mean expensive enough to outlive a marriage. But to me, Grandpa Arthur was the man who taught me how to tell oak from ash by touch. The man who kept peppermints in the left pocket of his flannel shirt. The man who let me sit under his workbench when I was little because the rest of the family was too loud. Every Sunday afternoon, from the time I was 8 until I turned 19, I went to his shop. Not because anyone made me, because it was the only place in my family where I did not feel like a mistake needing explanation. My mother, Elaine Bennett, had 2 daughters. Claire was the polished one. I was the practical one. Claire wore white dresses without spilling anything. I came home with stain on my sleeves. Claire went to debate, camp leadership camp, and a private college where the dorm rooms had fireplaces. I went to community college for 1 year, then dropped out when Grandpa Arthur had his first stroke. The family called that my failure. They did not call it what it was. A decision. Grandpa's stroke happened in January. He lost strength in his right hand, the same hand that had shaped 1,000 pieces of wood into something useful. He hated therapy, hated the walker, hated the speech exercises, hated being watched. My mother said she would coordinate care. Uncle Grant said he would handle the business side. Claire said she would visit on weekends once her internship calmed down. By February, the coordination was a group chat no one answered. By March, I was driving 43 minutes every morning before my shift at a furniture resale warehouse, helping Grandpa stretch his fingers, sorting his pills, labeling meals, reading him contract summaries, because the words swam when he got tired. By May, I had stopped going to class. My scholarship vanished. My advisor sent 2 emails and then stopped. My mother told everyone I could not handle college. Grandpa asked me once if I regretted it. We were in his kitchen. He was trying to button his shirt with one working hand and rage in both eyes. I buttoned the cuff for him. He said, "You should be in school." I said, "You should be doing your grip exercises." He stared at me, then laughed. A real laugh. The first after the stroke. "No one in this family talks to me like that," he said. "Maybe they should." He looked down at his hand, then at me. "You came." Of course I came. He studied my face for a long time. "That is not an of course thing, Lila." I thought he was being dramatic. I understand now. My family measured success in ways that looked good at parties. Degrees, titles, houses, spouses, the right shoes, the right vacation photos, the right tone when speaking to donors. I managed Rowan House Furnishings, a warehouse that bought estate furniture, repaired it, and sold it to people who could not afford new prices. My family said I sold old chairs. What I actually did was manage inventory repair, scheduling vendor accounts, delivery routes, employee shifts, restoration estimates, payroll, and customers who sometimes cried because a repaired dining table meant they could finally host Thanksgiving after a divorce. But old chairs sounded smaller, so that was the phrase my mother used. At Christmas, she would say, "Claire just closed another consulting contract, and Lila is still at the chair place." The chair place. Uncle Grant would smile and ask any plans to go back to school. Not because he cared, because the question reminded everyone that I had left. Claire would tilt her head and say, "There are certificate programs now, for people who need structure. For people. Not for you, never directly. People like my family rarely swing knives when pins will do." Grandpa Arthur heard all of it. He rarely interrupted in public. But once at Thanksgiving, after my mother announced Claire's promotion, and then said Lila is still figuring things out, Grandpa tapped his knife against his glass. One clear sound. The table quieted. Lila manages more moving parts in a week than half the people in this room could manage in a year. My mother gave a tight smile. Dad, do not exaggerate. I am not, Uncle Grant chuckled. Arthur, come on. It is furniture resale, not aerospace. Grandpa looked at him. Grant, if aerospace ran the way you run operations, planes would fall out of the sky. No one laughed. I did accidentally. After dinner, I found Grandpa in the shop behind the house. He was standing by the long maple workbench, tracing a crack in the wood with his thumb. Do not let them convince you that quiet work is small work, he said. I am tired of being defended. He nodded. Then stop waiting for them to see you. How? He looked toward the house where the windows glowed warm, and the family inside kept laughing without us. Build something they cannot explain away. At the time, I thought he meant me. Maybe he did, but he had already started building something too. The year before he died, Grandpa grew quieter. Not weaker, quieter. He still went to the company twice a week, though Uncle Grant hated it. Grant Bennett had appointed himself the natural successor to Bennett Millworks, long before anyone gave him the authority. He had the title of Chief Development Officer, which sounded important until you learned he gave it to himself after ordering business cards. He liked meetings. He liked client lunches. He liked walking through the shop floor in polished shoes, while men and women who actually built things moved around him with controlled irritation. Grandpa once said Grant knows how to hold a blueprint upside down with confidence. My cousin Mason Grant's son was on the payroll as a market strategy associate. He was 26, drove a black pickup he could not afford, and posted photos from job sites he visited only long enough to take selfies in a hard hat. Claire had a startup called Nest Ledger, a property and asset management platform for small landlords. She talked about it like she had invented rent. My mother did not work in the company. She worked in reputation. That was a full-time job in our family. She chaired charity luncheons, organized benefit auctions, and made sure every article about Bennett Millworks mentioned family values. Family values in our house meant the family valued whatever made us look stable. The truth did not always qualify. Grandpa watched all of them. I know that now. He watched Grant pad expense accounts. He watched Mason collect checks for work he did not do. He watched Claire treat him like a future investor instead of a grandfather. He watched my mother correct waiters and compliment strangers more warmly than she complimented me. He watched me arrive every Wednesday night with groceries sit at his kitchen table, update his medication sheet, fix the loose drawer by the sink, and leave without asking what would happen after he died. He watched. That was the part they forgot. They thought age made him less dangerous. They thought silence meant confusion. But Grandpa Arthur had built a company by listening while other men bragged. Silence was where he sharpened the blade. The day before the will reading, my mother called at 6:08 in the morning. I was already awake packing lunches for the warehouse crew because our delivery team had a long route and the vending machine had been broken for 2 weeks. Your grandfather passed last night, she said. No softening. No, are you sitting down? No, I am sorry. Just the fact delivered like a calendar update. I sat on the edge of my bed. The room looked suddenly unfamiliar. What happened? He went in his sleep. The attorney is reading the will tomorrow at 2. Pike and Delaney Lancaster. Wear something respectable. Then she hung up. Respectable. Not black, not comfortable. Respectable. I drove to Grandpa's house before work. The lane was lined with bare sycamore trees, their white branches reaching over the gravel like bones. Claire's silver SUV was already there. Grant's sedan, too. Mason's pickup was parked across the grass because of course it was. Through the kitchen window, I saw Claire at the table with her laptop open. Grant stood by the counter phone pressed to his ear. Mason was carrying a toolbox out of the mudroom. That stopped me. I got out of the car. Mason, he turned. What? Why do you have Grandpa's tools? He looked down as if surprised they were in his hand. Dad said we should secure valuables. Put them back. His mouth curved. Lila, it is not like you know what half this stuff is worth. I stepped closer. That is a Lie-Nielsen block plane, a starret combination square, and the small brass mallet Grandpa made from scrap walnut in 1996. Put them back. His smile faded. Grant came out onto the porch. Do not make this ugly. I am not the one stealing tools before the funeral. Your grandfather is gone, Grant said. The estate needs to be managed. The estate is not cold yet. My mother appeared behind him. Lila, she said, warning in every syllable. Mason set the toolbox down hard enough to rattle the contents. I picked it up and carried it back to the shop myself. Inside, the room smelled like sawdust and linseed oil. The workbench was clean, too clean. Grandpa must have cleaned it before he died. That thought nearly took me to my knees. On the bench sat his old black ledger, the one I would receive the next day. I did not know then. I only touched the cover and whispered, "I came," as if he could still hear. Maybe he could. Maybe he already had. At the will reading, everyone wore grief like a costume they expected to be photographed in. Claire wore a black dress with a belt that probably cost more than my rent. My mother wore pearls. Uncle Grant wore the expression of a man trying not to look impatient while waiting to be crowned. Mason wore sunglasses indoors until Samuel Pike asked him to remove them. The conference room had 12 chairs. I took the one closest to the door. Habit. In my family, I was always nearest the exit. Samuel Pike began with formal language. Date. Capacity. Witnesses. Revocations. Then the gifts. Money. Property. Accounts. The lake cottage. The townhouse. The advisory board seat. Claire's investment account. Grant nodded like his portion was smaller than expected, but acceptable. My mother closed her eyes when the townhouse was mentioned. Relief, not grief. Claire typed something into her phone. Mason whispered nice when he heard advisory board. Then Samuel read my name. The ledger came across the table. The key, the instruction. When they laugh, go alone. And they laughed. You know that part already. What I did not tell you is what happened in the hallway afterward. I was waiting for the elevator when my mother caught up. Lila. I turned. She looked at the ledger like it might stain her. I hope you understand your grandfather was not trying to embarrass you. No, that was everyone else. Her mouth tightened. You have always been sensitive. And you have always called accuracy sensitivity when it made you uncomfortable. Her eyes sharpened. Grant walked up behind her. If that key opens anything connected to Bennett Millworks, you are legally obligated to disclose it. Am I? Yes, company property belongs to the estate. Samuel Pike had stepped into the hallway behind us. Quietly. He said, Mr. Bennett, you may want to avoid offering legal conclusions in a hallway. Grant turned. This is a family matter. No, Samuel said. It is a legal one. For 1 second, Grant looked unsettled. Then Claire joined us smiling. Lila, come on. Whatever it is, you are going to need help understanding it. I looked at my sister. The perfect hair. The perfect coat. The perfect confidence of a woman who believed intelligence was proven by never being interrupted. Maybe I said, but not from you. The elevator opened. I stepped inside alone. The doors closed on their faces. And for the first time in years, I did not feel like the person being left out. I felt like the person carrying the only map. The ledger did not contain a phone number. That would have been too easy. Inside the back cover, taped beneath the brass key, was a small paper tag with an address. Lancaster Union Station. Private locker 47. Go alone. So I did. The station was not a train station anymore, not really. Part of it had been renovated into offices, a cafe, and a private storage facility for businesses that wanted old brick walls to make their filing cabinets feel historic. Locker 47 was in the basement level. The brass key fit. Inside was a sealed envelope, a flip phone, and a small wooden box no larger than my palm. The envelope had my name. The phone had a sticky note. Press 1. I sat on the concrete floor because my legs suddenly felt decorative. Then I opened the envelope. Lila, if you are reading this, you went alone. Good. People who want control hate when you follow instructions they did not write. Press 1. Arthur. I laughed then. A real laugh that echoed in the storage hallway. Then I pressed one. A woman answered on the second ring. Lila Bennett. Yes, my name is Celeste Morrow. I have been your grandfather's private trust attorney for 19 years. The air changed. Trust attorney. Not estate attorney. Not will attorney. Trust. I think you should come to my office, she said. Your grandfather left you something your family does not know exists. What did he leave? There was a pause. Then Celeste said responsibility. Grandpa's word. My throat closed. How much responsibility? Current valuation is approximately $36 million. The concrete floor seemed to move under me. I put one hand flat against the wall. I think I need a minute. You may take 3, Celeste said, but not too many. Your uncle has already called 2 board members. Celeste Morrow's office was above a bank in downtown Lancaster. She was in her early 60s with dark-skinned silver braids pulled into a low knot and eyes that did not waste movement. On the wall behind her desk was a framed photograph of Grandpa Arthur standing beside a younger Celeste in front of the original Bennett Millworks sign. Your grandfather hired me in 2005, she said. Not because he expected to die soon, but because he expected his family to behave exactly as they have. She opened a leather binder. The Arthur Bennett Legacy Trust owns 100% of Bennett Millworks Holdings. That includes the operating company, the factory property, the design contracts, the equipment, the long-term investment accounts, and several real estate assets connected to the business. I stared at the page. But Grant works there. Grant is employed there. He says he runs it. He says many things. I almost smiled. Celeste turned the binder toward me. You are the sole successor beneficiary and controlling trustee provided you accept within 30 days of receiving the ledger. If I do not, the company transfers to an employee ownership foundation and a regional trade scholarship fund. I looked at her. So either I call or the workers get it. Yes, not my family. Number. I sat back. Grandpa had built a door that opened only if I chose it. And if I did not, the people who actually built the cabinets would inherit the company instead of the people who sat in rooms talking about legacy. That was such an Arthur Bennett thing to do that I had to close my eyes. Celeste slid a second document forward. Arthur left a letter for you. You can read it only after signing the acceptance documents. I looked at the pen. My hand did not move. I manage a furniture warehouse. Yes, I do not know how to run a $36 million company. Arthur knew that. Then why? Because you know how to learn without pretending you already know. Your grandfather considered that rare in this family. I looked down. The pen was heavy. Celeste continued. He appointed an interim CEO for 12 months, Marisol Vega. She has been running day-to-day operations quietly for the past 4 years, while your uncle believed himself indispensable. I laughed before I could stop it. Celeste did not. Marisol is excellent. She will train you if you accept. And if Grant sues, he can. The trust includes a no-contest clause tied to the gifts under the will. Any beneficiary who challenges the trust risks freezing their probate inheritance until final judgment. I thought of Grant's coffee toast, Claire's laughter, my mother's smile. Did he know they would laugh? Celeste's face softened. He counted on it. That hurt more than I expected. Not because Grandpa had been cruel, because he had seen the room clearly enough to predict my humiliation. I signed the first page, then the second, then every page after that. When it was done, Celeste handed me a cream envelope. Grandpa's handwriting. Lila, you came when I fell. That is how I know you will come when the company needs you. Do not let the loudest people convince you they are the builders. Builders leave evidence. Look for who swept the floors after the meeting. Look for who stayed late when the order changed. Look for who tells the truth when the truth costs money. I am not leaving you a prize. I am leaving you work. Do it honestly, and keep the shop lights on. Grandpa. I held the letter in both hands. For once I did not cry because I had been hurt. I cried because I had been known. The family meeting happened 2 days later at Grandpa's house. Celeste sent the notice through Samuel Pike's office. Official language. Formal time. 2 o'clock. Grant arrived early and sat in Grandpa's armchair by the stone fireplace. Of course he did. Claire sat on the couch with her laptop open. My mother sat near the window, posture perfect. Mason stood behind Grant like a bodyguard in loafers. Aunt Ruth came, though she had not said more than 6 words at a family gathering in years. Several cousins came too, because money pulls chairs into rooms faster than grief. I arrived at exactly 2 with Celeste and Marisol Vega. No one recognized Marisol at first. She was 52, compact Latina, dressed in a charcoal suit and work boots. Not decorative work boots. Actual boots. The kind people wear when they have been on a factory floor before breakfast. Grant stood. What is this? Celeste placed her binder on the coffee table. A formal trust notification. Claire's fingers froze above her keyboard. My mother looked at me. What have you done? I did not answer. Celeste did. In 2005, Arthur Bennett established the Arthur Bennett Legacy Trust. The trust owns 100% of Bennett Millworks holdings and related assets. It is irrevocable, separate from the will and outside probate. The room changed. You could feel it, like a storm pressure drop. Grant said, that is impossible. No, Celeste said, it is documented. She opened the binder. The sole successor beneficiary and controlling trustee is Lila Rose Bennett. She accepted the role yesterday. The transfer is now active. For half a second, nobody moved. Then Claire laughed. Not the same laugh from the attorney's office. This one was thin. Afraid? Lila, she runs a warehouse. Marisol spoke for the first time. Warehouses require operations. You should visit one sometime. Claire stared at her. Who are you? Marisol Vega, interim CEO of Bennett Millworks for the last 4 years. Grant's face went dark red. You are not CEO. Marisol looked at him with the calm of a woman who had dealt with suppliers' deadlines and men named Grant before breakfast. I have been signing operational approvals since your father restricted your authority. In 2020, Mason whispered Dad. Grant ignored him. He pointed at me. She manipulated him. Celeste removed 3 folders. Arthur completed independent capacity evaluations in 2005-2016 and 8 months before his death. All confirm full legal and financial capacity. Grant stepped forward. My father had a stroke. In 2013, Celeste said. The trust was established 8 years earlier, reaffirmed twice afterward, and amended most recently with physician verification. Claire closed her laptop slowly. How much? No one had asked why. No one had asked what Grandpa wanted. Just how much? Celeste said current valuation is approximately $36 million. My mother made a sound. Small. Almost a gasp. Grant sat down. Not because he wanted to, because his knees had understood before his pride. Mason looked at me like I had become a locked safe. Claire whispered, 36 million. I looked at her. You laughed at the ledger. She said nothing. My mother's eyes filled. Lila, sweetheart, surely you understand this is too much for you. There it was. Sweetheart as leash. I said, no, Mom. What I understand is that Grandpa knew exactly who everyone was. Her face changed. Not anger first. Fear. Because the sentence did not leave her outside the judgment. Celeste continued. The will gifts remain intact unless any beneficiary challenges the trust. A challenge activates the no contest clause and may freeze their distribution until resolution. Arthur was clear. Grant stood again slower this time. This company belongs to the Bennett family. Marisol looked at the worker's photograph on the wall. It does. That is why Arthur did not leave it to the people who only use the name. Silence. Aunt Ruth covered her mouth. Not to hide shock, to hide a smile. Grant left first. Mason followed him, pale and confused. Claire packed her laptop with shaking hands. My mother stayed until the room was nearly empty. Then she walked up to me and said, "You will not know who to trust." I looked at Celeste, at Marisol, at Aunt Ruth, then back at my mother. "I am learning." She flinched. "Good. Some sentences should land." My first day at Bennett Millworks began at 6:30 in the morning. Not in the executive office. On the factory floor, Marisol handed me safety glasses and ear protection. If you want to know the company, learn where noise comes from. The shop was alive. Table saws, sanders, dust collectors, forklifts beeping, people moving with purpose, wood stacked by species and moisture level, orders clipped to boards, cabinet doors curing on racks. A woman named Denise ran the finishing room and told me within 5 minutes that Grant had once approved the wrong stain on a hotel job because he did not read the change order. "Cost us $32,000, she said. "Did Grandpa know?" She snorted. "Arthur knew before lunch." A man named Peter in assembly showed me how the custom library shelves were labeled for installation. A young apprentice named Leo asked if I was the granddaughter. I said yes. He said Arthur said you knew how to sand with the grain. I nearly cried into my safety glasses. Marisol did not let me. She handed me a clipboard. Crying is allowed after inventory. We spent the day walking through orders, contracts, payroll maintenance logs, personnel files, and a list of irregular expenses connected to Grant. $218,000 in questionable reimbursements over 3 years, client entertainment, consulting fees, travel upgrades, a company-paid lease for Mason's truck. Marisol said, "Your grandfather wanted it addressed after the transition. He did not want to spend his last months fighting his son." What do? We document. We give legal notice. We offer structured repayment before escalation. Would Grandpa have done that? Yes, Marisol said. Arthur believed in consequences, not spectacles. That became my rule. Consequences, not spectacles. By the end of the week, Mason's advisory board seat was suspended pending role review. Grant's authority was formally revoked. Claire requested a meeting. My mother sent 6 texts and then deleted them before I could read all of them. The family group chat went silent. For the first time, silence did not feel like exile. It felt like space. Claire met me at a diner in Lancaster 2 weeks later. No laptop, no husband, no perfect posture. She looked tired. Real tired, not performative tired. "I need to pitch Nest Ledger to Bennett Millworks," she said. I almost laughed. She held up one hand. I know how this sounds. Do you..." Her eyes flashed, then lowered. "Yes." I waited. She exhaled. "My company is running out of money. The software works, but we need a serious client. Bennett needs digital asset tracking. I can help. You can apply through procurement." Her face tightened. "Lila." "No, that is the offer. Submit like any vendor. Marisol's team will evaluate the software. If it is good, you get a pilot. If it is not, you do not." "I am your sister." "Yes, that used to mean something." I leaned back. "Funny. It did not mean much when you were laughing at Grandpa's ledger." She looked away. For a moment, I thought she would leave. Then she said very quietly, "I was jealous of you." That surprised me enough to keep me silent. She stared at her untouched coffee. "He talked to you differently, like you were real. With me, he asked about numbers. With Grant, about projects. With Mom, about schedules. With you, he asked what you noticed." I remembered that. "What did you notice, Lila? Not what did you do. Not what did you earn. What did you notice?" Claire swallowed. "I told myself he felt sorry for you. It was easier than admitting he trusted you." The apology was not complete. But it was a door cracked open. I said, "Submit the proposal." She nodded. "And Claire," she looked up, "if you ever call Rowan House the chair place again, we are done." For the first time in my life, my sister did not argue. Grant sued. Of course he did. The petition claimed undue influence incapacity and improper transfer of family assets. Celeste responded with documents so clean they almost shone. Trust agreement, amendments, capacity evaluations, board records, letters from Grandpa, medical statements, the private locker chain of custody. The no contest clause froze Grant's Lake Cottage and cash distribution pending review. His attorney warned him. He continued anyway. 3 months later, the judge denied the emergency petition and called the evidence of incapacity unsupported and speculative. Grant's legal fees climbed. His wife moved to her sister's house in Harrisburg. Mason's truck lease was canceled. Mason came to the office once angry and loud, until Denise from finishing stepped into the hallway with a spray gun in one hand and said, "Boy, this floor has eaten louder men than you." He left. I wanted to send her flowers. Marisol said that would violate the culture. "Bring donuts," she said. So I did. My mother's collapse was quieter. She had received the Philadelphia townhouse and $500,000. Within 4 months, she called and asked to meet. We met at a park because I did not want to sit across from her at a table and pretend we were family the old way. She wore sunglasses, though the sky was cloudy. "I need to sell the townhouse," she said. "Okay." I used part of the cash to cover debts. "How much is part?" She did not answer. That was answer enough. Then she said, "People are asking questions." "About what?" "About the company. About you." I looked at the ducks moving across the pond. "What are you telling them?" She removed her sunglasses. Her eyes were red. "That my father trusted you." It was not an apology, but it was a crack in the family mythology. I said, "Keep telling the truth." She nodded once and stopped calling me unfinished. Her face twisted. "I did that, didn't I?" "Yes. I thought if I lowered expectations for you, it would hurt less when people judged." "No," I said. "You were the people." She looked down. For once, she had no polished answer. 6 months after I accepted the trust, Marisol brought me a file. "Arthur's apprenticeship housing project," she said. I opened it. Plans for converting an unused company-owned building into affordable apartments for trade apprentices and entry-level workers. 24 units, shared workshop, evening certification classes, childcare partnership with the community college. On the cover, Grandpa had written, "People cannot build stable things while living unstable lives." Grant had rejected it. Margins too thin. Too much community liability. Not enough prestige. I read the plan twice, then said we'd do it. Marisol's face stayed neutral, but her eyes warmed. "Arthur said you would." The project took 10 months. Permits, financing, construction, arguments with inspectors, arguments with Grant's former allies, a budget issue that kept me awake for 3 nights. Claire's software won a limited pilot after Marisol's team evaluated 3 vendors and determined Nest Ledger actually worked. I signed the contract with a clause that prohibited family interference. Claire sent me a text afterward. "Thank you for making me earn it." I stared at that sentence for a long time, then wrote back, "Do something good with it." Grant dropped his lawsuit after 9 months. The no contest freeze had nearly bankrupted him. He came to the office, not to my house. That mattered. He sat across from me in the conference room where supplier samples lined the wall. "I was wrong," he said. "No warm-up, no excuse. I wanted the company because I thought being Arthur Bennett's son meant it was mine. But he saw the way I treated it." I said nothing. "I have no right to ask for a role." "Number." He nodded. Then after a long silence, "Is there a way to repay without prison?" That was the most honest question Grant had ever asked me. Celeste drafted the repayment plan. Marisol supervised his consulting restrictions. Grant was not given authority. He was given accountability. People confuse mercy with access. I do not anymore. The apprenticeship building opened 1 year after Grandpa died. We named it Bennett House, not after the company. After the kind of house Grandpa believed a person deserved before being asked to build something for someone else. At the opening, Denise from finishing cut the ribbon because she had worked at Bennett Millworks for 27 years and had trained half the people there. The mayor spoke too long. Marisol gave a speech that lasted 3 minutes and somehow said more. Claire stood near the back, watching the software dashboard on her phone like a nervous parent. My mother came. Grant came. Mason did not. Aunt Ruth held my hand during the ribbon cutting. Afterward, a young apprentice named Leo showed me his apartment. Small, clean, second floor, a window facing the old sycamore trees. "I can walk to work," he said, like it was a miracle. For some people it is. That night I went to Grandpa's shop. The long maple workbench was exactly where he left it. The old black ledger sat on the bench, open to the first page. "When they laugh, go alone." I had added a new line beneath it in pencil. "When you return, bring something worth building." I sat on his stool and listened to the quiet. For years I thought my family's laughter proved something about me. That I was small, unfinished, unqualified, easy to dismiss. But laughter is not evidence. Sometimes it is only fear making noise before the truth enters the room. If you are listening to this because your family has made you feel like the least impressive person at the table, I want you to hear me. Do not let their measurements become your mirror. A degree can be valuable. So can a title. So can money polish certainty and a room where people clap at the right moments. But none of those things prove character. Character is who comes when there is nothing promised. Character is who learns the unglamorous work. Character is who protects what other people only want to possess. My grandfather did not leave me a ledger because he thought I liked old paper. He left me a test. Would I open what everyone else mocked? Would I follow instructions no one else respected? Would I accept responsibility without mistaking it for revenge? I am still learning the answer. My name is Lila Bennett. My family laughed when I inherited an old ledger and a brass key. They thought it was proof that I was exactly who they said I was. The dropout, the warehouse girl, the punchline. But the key opened locker 47. The locker led to a trust. The trust led to the company my grandfather built. And the company taught me the one thing my family never could. You do not have to look powerful to be chosen for power. Sometimes you only have to be the one who showed up when everyone else was busy waiting for the will.